With the first Sonic movie beating the odds and becoming a success, overcoming the drama of the original design and navigating the challenges of a global pandemic, it was clear to director Jeff Fowler and Paramount that they had the start of something big. And much like the movie, my first Sonic movie video was met with overwhelming support. And you all made it clear that you wanted a follow-up. So here I am. And if you like what you see by the end of the video, you know what to do. Now, while the first Sonic movie was a fun and well-received introduction to our favorite Hedgehog, its ties to the games were relatively minimal, leaving fans eager for more Sonic lore. Still, it delivered. Sonic looked fantastic on the big screen, Jim Carrey nailed his performance as Dr. Robotnik, and the post-credit scenes introducing Tails left fans buzzing. With all this momentum, a sequel was inevitable. James Marsden, who played Tom Wachowski, signed on for multiple sequels within a month of the premiere. However, the COVID-19 pandemic was kicking off and would delay Hollywood productions across the board.
Imagine all the people.
Despite the challenges, Jeff Fowler was quick to express his desire for a sequel focused on the friendship between Sonic and Tails, one of the most iconic relationships in the series lore. But this wasn't the only story thread being developed. There was much more in store for Dr. Robotnik, and Sonic fans were about to be rewarded for their patience. Even before the first Sonic movie premiered, Jim Carrey hinted at the untapped potential of his character.
I could have had 5 franchise characters, but then I wouldn't have had Eternal Sunshine. Then I wouldn't have had, Man on the Moon. Right. I don't know if it's that I've gotten older or whatever it is, or the nature of this part. This part, I wouldn't mind going to do another one because it was so much fun, first of all, and a real challenge to try to, convince people that I have a triple-digit IQ. There's so much room. Robotnik has not reached his apotheosis. Look it up!
Carrey's enthusiasm extended beyond the performance, and according to Pat Casey, one of the film's writers, Carrey was even interested in wearing a fat suit for the sequel to make his appearance closer to the iconic look of Dr. Eggman. Casey himself had big plans too. He wanted to finally bring the Chaos Emeralds into the story after removing them from his initial pitch for the first film. He also aimed to delve deeper into the Echidna tribe teased in the opening scenes of the first movie, paving the way for Knuckles the Echidna's debut. And by May 2020, Paramount Pictures officially confirmed that a sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog was in development, with Pat Casey and Josh Miller returning to write the script. Thanks to the unexpected financial success of the first film, Paramount decided, we're gonna stand out of your way, and granted the writers full creative freedom for the screenplay. And with more Sonic lore expecting to play a central role in the series, Jeff Fowler made it clear that they wouldn't strictly follow the games in chronological order. In his words, quote, "It's not always going to be a linear progression of like, oh, this was in Sonic 2, so it's going to be in the Sonic 2 film. It's going to be a little bit of cherry picking, a little bit of a melting pot. There's so much great inspiring imagery to pull from the 30 years of games. So if we didn't get it in one film, there's always the chance that we'll revisit it somewhere else." Even so, the sequel's script was heavily inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Sonic and Knuckles. And this approach allowed the team to blend key storylines and characters into a cohesive sequel, while giving them room to build their own unique take on the Sonic universe. Production officially began in March 2021 with Tyson Hess, who conceptualized Sonic's redesign, joining the team early on as a character design lead and storyboard supervisor. Filming took place in Vancouver and Hawaii between March and June 2021 under the working title Emerald Hill, a nod to the opening zone of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now the team had to cast actors for both Tails and Knuckles. Colleen O'Shaughnessy, the voice of Tails in the games, reprised her role in the sequel after a cameo in the first movie's post-credits scene.
As an actor, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. I was just thrilled that they were even considering using me because of the typical getting replaced by a celebrity, but it was thrilling and exciting and yay.
Obviously a perfect choice for the character, but to this day, she's the only actor to reprise their role from the games in the movies. Knuckles, on the other hand, was up for grabs, with rumors circulating the internet as to who would be best for the role. In January 2021, the crew held auditions for Knuckles, with rumors of actors like Samuel L. Jackson, Chris Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Jason Momoa. Personally, I wouldn't have been happy with any of those choices. Okay, maybe Samuel L. Jackson.
Tick-tock, motherfucker!
But luckily, in August of that year, Idris Elba came forward as the confirmed voice of Knuckles. And Elba reportedly had a lot of questions about Knuckles and his story, which had me envision him going home and binge reading Archie comics at 4 in the morning.
What the fuck?
This is my headcanon and no one can tell me otherwise. By December 2021, fans are finally treated to the very first trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at the Game Awards, setting the stage for what would become an even bigger milestone for the Sonic cinematic universe. Alright, so I'm not going to go into a detailed analysis of the movie's plot, but I'll give a gist of it before getting into some of the scrap plot points. So, spoilers for Sonic 2. The plot picks up directly after the first movie, with Tails arriving on Earth to warn Sonic that Knuckles the Echidna is hunting him down. Knuckles is renowned as one of the most powerful warriors in the galaxy, more on this later. But meanwhile, Eggman, who was banished to a mushroom planet in the previous movie, is busted out by Knuckles, who enlists his help to track down Sonic. This leads into a series of events of both teams attempting to track down the Master Emerald, an all-powerful gem that had the Echidna tribe at war with Longclaw and her Owl tribe. Sonic and Knuckles are victims of this conflict, both orphaned by the fighting from their parents. But still, they square off with one another throughout the movie, with Eggman tagging along with Knuckles to snag the Master Emerald from right under his nose. So after a really cool first face-off between Sonic and Knuckles, there's a lot of exposition, which leads them to Siberia and into this really strange dance scene in hindsight. Let's not do this ever again. There are a few action scenes here in Siberia, which is originally going to be referred to as Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3, which then transitions into the famous wedding scene in Hawaii that somehow reveals the Guardian Units of Nation from Sonic Adventure 2, and I actually didn't think the scene was so bad.
Are you an agent? Son of a...
But finally, the location of the Master Emerald is revealed. In Labyrinth Zone? So we find out that the Owl tribe took the Master Emerald away into Labyrinth Zone on Earth to hide it from the Echidnas, a ruin hidden beneath the waters off the coast of Hawaii. Labyrinth Zone is a level in the first Sonic the Hedgehog game, but in this movie is built by the Owl tribe, which I think is an interesting bit of lore. But I still think that Longclaw initially being a reference to this symbol in Labyrinth Zone is still a coincidence. Prove me wrong, Mr. Fowler. But regardless, in the games, the Master Emerald is normally housed on Angel Island, protected by Knuckles, so what gives? Well, I did some digging, and apparently Pat Casey was asked if there was ever a draft with Angel Island for this movie, to which he confirms that there is indeed a version where they would have taken the Master Emerald back to Angel Island.
I mean, there was a whole version of the Master Emerald, taking the Master Emerald back to Angel Island, or like actually Angel Island rising up out of the ocean instead of the ocean sort of parting to reveal the Labyrinth Zone. Like Angel Island, if we did it that way, was going to be a little bit of like sort of a tossed off one-off, and maybe it felt like we were squandering it to use it as such a minor plot device, actually, when maybe we could return to it again in a sequel and do a bigger thing with it. There actually was a draft, yeah, where like when Knuckles first meets Robotnik, he like takes Robotnik to Angel Island to show him how it's like falling into the ocean a piece at a time, and why he needs the Emerald back so bad. But then we were also like, man, we got to get them to Earth. Like we can't take this big detour.
Yeah. So there you have it. And the fact that we still don't have an Angel Island in this universe means it's still in their back pocket for future movies. But instead of Angel Island, the film gives us Labyrinth Zone, where Sonic and Knuckles settle their differences, while Eggman takes advantage of the chaos to absorb the Master Emerald's power. This sets up the third act, with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles teaming up to stop the giant Eggman robot, a clear nod to the Death Egg robot from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The team fights valiantly, managing to retrieve the Master Emerald, but Eggman still overpowers them, leaving Sonic and friends in a pretty desperate situation. At the last moment, drawing strength from love for his family, the Chaos Emeralds within the Master Emerald reveal themselves, transforming Sonic into Super Sonic for the first time on the big screen. I screamed. Initially, Super Sonic was planned to appear in the original film, no doubt in the original draft where he was hunting down Chaos Emeralds instead, but Fowler felt it would be too early and doubled down on building out Sonic and Dr. Robotnik's relationship instead. But Sonic 2 clearly aimed to expand the mythology, and part of that effort included the prequel comic, Sonic the Hedgehog 2: The Official Movie Prequel. This set of stories bridges the events of the first and second films, answering some lingering questions. For example, one story follows Sonic's attempt to become a superhero, only to be tricked and betrayed during a bank robbery, an experience that teaches him about the darker side of humanity. Another story explores Knuckles' journey to track down Sonic, revealing more about his reputation as a galactic warrior. Captured and forced to fight in a coliseum in Casino Night Zone, Knuckles turns the tables on his captors and recruits a bird race to assist him. This ultimately leads to his encounter with Eggman on the Mushroom Planet, so if you've ever wondered who these thugs are in the movie, this comic provides that backstory. Also, we get this cool Chaotix cameo. They do exist in this continuity. We also find out how Tails tracked down Sonic, initially visiting his home planet, and we learn things like the existence of chaos energy, which is no doubt the energy we see from Sonic throughout these movies. I also found it interesting that he mentioned Sonic and Longclaw's home has been untouched since that incident, now being considered sacred ground. We also get this cameo from Rava the Destroyer, the cut villain from the first film. Anyway, I'd recommend going to read this comic because it does quite a bit of world building for this universe. If you've ever felt that this universe needs to extend outside of Earth, comics do that, and potentially hint at settings that could be explored in future films. There was also a short animated clip that followed called Drone Home, showing Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles working together to take out an Eggman drone that was bunkering down in a junkyard, and they end up befriending it after it explains its desire to become a poet. Animated by veteran Sonic animators Marsa Animation Planet, it's really well done, and it adds a little bit more character development between the core Sonic characters. But I wonder what happened to this drone. What else is there to say about this movie? Oh yeah, Big the Cat was planned to make a cameo, but was scrapped as well. Well, kinda. Pat Casey revealed that during the Siberia scene, a skeleton would have appeared, which he described as a dead Big the Cat. While it wouldn't have been the Big the Cat, the idea was ultimately scrapped because it didn't make sense, even as a gag. So through all of this, the team brought home another successful film, with the movie grossing even higher at the box office this time, becoming the biggest opening for a video game movie until the Super Mario Bros. Movie the following year. Maybe I should do a video on that one too. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and a Knuckles spin-off was already greenlit before the movie even premiered, so the future of this universe was clear, and once again, the roof was lifted off the theaters with this post-credit scene.
Shadow! It's Shadow! No!
More on this in a bit. Everything was looking up for this franchise, but there was one bittersweet interview that spread like wildfire shortly after the premiere of Sonic 2.
Well, I'm retiring, but
No.
yeah, probably.
Are you being serious or are you screwing with me?
I'm being fairly serious. Yeah.
Really? Why?
It depends. It depends if the Angels bring some sort of script that's written in gold ink that says to me that it's going to be really important for people to see. I might continue down the road, but I'm taking a break.
Despite this, Fowler and his team made it clear Dr. Robotnik would not be recast, and there was much to look forward to for the future. With more star power in their universe, it was time for Idris Elba to take the stage in his new miniseries, Knuckles. First off, great choice in trailer song, and I can't believe I didn't think of making a shitty AMV for Knuckles with this song back in 2008. Taking place between Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, Knuckles is a 6-episode miniseries with Knuckles clearly struggling to adjust on Earth. He decides to go on a journey to find himself, taking on Wade Whipple, the resident goofy cop character from previous films, played by Adam Pally, as an apprentice. I remember when this was announced, a lot of fans thought this would be a groundbreaking TV series that would be crucial to Knuckles' lore. Maybe we'll see Angel Island. Maybe Rouge the Bat will show up. Maybe the Chaotix would make an appearance.
Who's this broad?
But instead, we got a pretty straightforward buddy cop series out of this. A series that seems to use Wade as the main medium for character growth, with Knuckles being worked around his story. But despite it not being heavy in Sonic lore, I personally enjoyed it. It was short and entertaining, and there are a few things that the show does well. Neil Moritz, executive producer of the Sonic films, and Jeff Fowler would be the executive producers for the series. But this time, Pat Casey and Josh Miller would not be the writers, turning their focus to Sonic 3. John Whittington would join as the lead writer this time, known for his work on the Lego Batman movie. He'd be joined by Toby Asher, who would serve as the showrunner for the project. The TV show was an opportunity to expand the universe further, and the producers loved the idea of having an homage to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the game, with both the movie and the TV series premiering the same year. With the show going to Paramount Plus, they took the approach as if it was the third film in the series, and decided to use the buddy comedy approach from the first film, but instead of the goofy and straight man bit that we saw between Sonic and Tom, they went for having two goofy characters instead between Knuckles and Wade. The Guardian Units of Nation would be explored a bit more in the series, with the creators trying to flesh out events in the world due to Sonic and the other characters' arrival on Earth. What would happen if bad actors got their hands on Sonic and Knuckles' quills or had access to their rings, which is used to introduce the main villains of this series, Agent Willoughby and Agent Mason, played by Ellie Taylor and Scott Mescudi respectively. These are rogue gun agents that take advantage of their top secret knowledge to procure these items like Sonic's rings or their quills.
Do I look like I need your power?
And Kid Cudi, man, I can tell he was excited to be here, but keep working on the craft, bro. These agents work with another antagonist known as the Buyer, played by Rory McCann of Game of Thrones fame, a former agent of Dr. Robotnik when he used to work for the government. And I always felt this scene of him using Knuckles' quill to make weapons took me back to the scene where they introduced Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming, who's repurposing alien tech left over from the big Avengers fight to make weapons. And apparently I felt this way for good reason. Turns out the writers were inspired by Marvel Comics, drawing from stories that showed how broader events would affect the real world.
The world's changing.
It's time we change too.
I've been selling my creations on the black market. Before you know it, I've built an empire.
So Knuckles and Wade go on this journey to Reno for Wade to win a bowling tournament, while Knuckles encourages him to become a warrior, which leads to interactions with Wade's obnoxious family, while Agent Mason and Willoughby are attempting to capture Knuckles on behalf of the Buyer. And surprisingly, this series made me grow to like Wade. I really did not like this character before. And for Knuckles, despite the writers leaning into his warrior persona, it doesn't really get old. Knuckles is definitely the best part of this show, though the biggest criticism it got is that he isn't in it enough. Like, dog, you were training him to win this bowling tournament the whole show, but you didn't show up to support in the audience? And there's a reason for this too. Limited budget. This means less screen time for any CGI characters, which had the showrunners having to improvise a bit. Aside from a few good action scenes and a couple of Easter eggs, Knuckles isn't too detrimental to the Sonic cinematic universe, but it was a good experiment to see if these characters could stand on their own, with Knuckles being the most watched original series on its launch and the most watched kids and family title ever on Paramount+. I guess that's not saying much though. I can't think of any other Paramount Plus original shows from the top of my head.
Come on now, dawg.
It's Sonic 3 time. The Sonic fandom received this moment positively, with Shadow the Hedgehog being introduced as the central character in the next chapter of Sonic's journey, though many questions swarmed the internet almost instantly. Who would be taking on the role as Shadow? Would Jim Carrey return as Dr. Robotnik? And if not, how would the story carry on without him? With the plot clearly hinting to take inspiration from Sonic Adventure 2, there were crucial characters in the game that were still missing from the Sonic cinematic universe. Would Amy Rose and Rouge the Bat finally be revealed? Development for Sonic 3 started almost immediately after the completion of Sonic 2, with the usual players Jeff Fowler, Pat Casey, and Josh Miller returning. Since Fowler confirmed they weren't explicitly doing things in chronological order from the games, this time the plot would be based around not just Sonic Adventure 2, but 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog as well. And with that, Jeff Fowler and his involvement with Sonic came full circle. The cast remained consistent as well, with James Marsden and Tico Sumter returning as the Wachowskis.
I have a confession. Cyclops is my favorite X-Men.
Whoa!
There he is.
Do you like boring characters?
Yes. Yes.
Favorite character from the Sonic series, Tom Wachowski.
Ben, Colleen, and Idris returning as Team Sonic, and Lee Majdoub coming back as Agent Stone, Dr. Robotnik's loyal assistant. And this is the first time I'm mentioning him in these videos, but can I just say that he's one of the most welcomed original characters in these movies? Majdoub really sells the role and can be both funny and serious, and I think Agent Stone is a little underutilized across all three films. But as speculation circled the internet, February 2024 came around and the team had a big announcement. Jim Carrey would reprise his role as Dr. Robotnik. Remember this story?
The angels bring some sort of, script that's, written in gold ink.
Well, Fowler did just that and printed a script of gold in 24 karat ink, costing him $100,000 to produce. And his ask this time around was big. Again, no major spoilers right now, but I'll give a short summary of the plot. This time it centers around Shadow the Hedgehog escaping suspended animation, which sets off his plot to get revenge on humanity for an accident that occurred 50 years prior, which springs Team Sonic into action, having to face the most powerful foe they've come up against in this continuity. We also get an appearance of Dr. Gerald Robotnik, Eggman's grandfather, which brings me back to Jeff Fowler's big ask. Jim Carrey was casted to play both Robotniks. This required Carrey to spend 3 hours in the makeup chair, and he's explained in interviews that performing both roles took quite a physical toll. But despite this, he was in the zone. Fowler said in an interview, quote, "For him to create a whole new character within the world was certainly an exciting opportunity, and he just went all in. No detail was too small. He helped design the prosthetics and everything." They had to film these tricky shots with both Robotniks on screen, with Carrey working closely with his double, Brendan Murphy, to accomplish this feat.
very difficult. And I had a wonderful actor named Brendan Murphy who jumped in with me, and he did the other parts. So I would do Robotnik and he would do Gerald, and I would do Gerald and he'd do Robotnik, and I'd be sitting there as Robotnik performing and telling him how I may eventually do that side of the character. I was reacting to a disembodied voice that I had done the day before coming from the ceiling somewhere. So it's a trick.
And after all that, Jim Carrey must finally be deciding to call it quits this time, right?
You can't be definite about these things. I said I'd like to retire, but, you know, I think I was talking more about, power resting.
So that left one major role to be filled. Shadow the Hedgehog. I remember there was years of guessing who would be the best fit on social media. Robert Pattinson because of his portrayal of Batman, Hayden Christensen, to the point where an article was published that he got cast for the role, Keanu Reeves. But just like Knuckles before, Fowler didn't cave to the internet and cast... Oh, it was Keanu Reeves. Okay, well, before getting into anything else, I think Keanu was a fantastic Shadow, where I didn't even feel like it was his voice after a while. It was Shadow. A strong, menacing, but pained voice that nails the original vibe from Sonic Adventure 2.
You know, I didn't come to save you. I came back for the Chaos Emeralds.
You jumped out of a gun helicopter. There's nothing to talk about.
When I did Knuckles, I was like, how do I find his voice? Did his voice, pretty happy with his voice. And I see Shadow, I'm like,
No, I don't buy any of that.
it was cool. And I was like, no. He's like,
Yeah.
We'd get this news on April 15th, 2024, and I feel like it wasn't supposed to be revealed to the public this way. For example, when Idris Elba was casted as Knuckles, he put out the knock knock tweet with a picture of Knuckles' fist that we would see for the first time. But this time around, we just got the news Keanu would be Shadow. So I looked into it, and Hollywood Reporter broke the story on April 15th, with many media outlets following suit. But Tales Channel, renowned Sonic's fan site, would later report that it was likely from a leaked press document mentioning the actor in the movie's billing. If this is true, it's not clear who leaked the document, but the Sonic crew never commented on the early announcement. But it was clear to the public the movie would drop in December 2024, and the months went by with no additional news. While fans were going rabid on Twitter because no movie trailer had been released 5 months before the premiere. I won't get into that drama in this video, but if you were a part of that, you're annoying. Fowler said that they got Keanu Reeves on board because there was an obvious correlation between his performance in John Wick and the vibe they were trying to land for Shadow.
I was very familiar with Sonic, the game. I never played it, so I didn't know all of the lore until I got the role and started doing research.
So just like Idris and Carrey before him, the Sonic lore was just too much for Keanu to resist. I wonder if you watched one of my videos. And if the animation in this movie looks like it's improved this time around, Paramount went to 6 studios total for the visual effects this time, with Rising Sun Pictures, Rodeo FX, Industrial Light and Magic, and Finn joining the roster. Mars Animation Planet would return to help once more as well, and to cut costs a bit, Paramount would have an in-house animation team this time that worked on both Sonic 3 and the Knuckles series. Building assets and models in-house before outsourcing them to the other studios cut costs considerably for them and allowed them to move much faster. And once the first trailer dropped in August 27th, the hype was real. Not to mention Sonic Team dubbed 2024 the year of Shadow, with multiple mediums giving Shadow this much needed spotlight. Shadow Generations is a tie-in game with a fantastic animation serving as the prologue, Shadow merch, Shadow DLC, extra Shadow songs at the Sonic Symphony, all culminating to the movie launching at the end of the year, which was met with overwhelming success, and was the #1 movie at the domestic box office the first and second weekend of its release. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at 87%, making it the highest rated film based on video games on that platform. As for the future of Sonic films, what's next? I mean, once again, Sonic 4 was announced to be in development before Sonic 3 even released, so the cat's out of the bag there, with Fowler aiming for a 2027 release date. But seeing as Knuckles was a success, will there be a season 2 of Knuckles? Maybe even a Shadow spin-off?
Is there any chance that we might get a second season of Knuckles before we get to Sonic 4?
Is there a Sonic 4? Wow.
I don't
You
know.
know more than me, my guy.
I'm just hopeful here, that's all.
I would say that I'd honestly love to do it. Any chance to get to understand the characters a little bit more in those different episodes is fantastic. So if there is, I'm down.
Call it Shadow Knuckles. It's right there.
No, Knuckles and Shadow.
With no end in sight to these movies, I truly hope this series keeps going as long as I live. Your boy's getting older, but each film takes me right back to that safe childhood place, and I have to give my deep appreciation for the whole team that come together to make these films happen, and clearly they're having fun doing it. Okay, with that said, major post-credit spoilers for Sonic 3, so if you click off here, be mindful of spoilers in the comments as well. How cool was this sequence? This wasn't a teaser. It felt like a whole ass trailer. I'm someone who felt Metal Sonic should have been in Sonic 2 and or Sonic 3, so I was pleased with this choice, and then boom. I mean, shit. What's the plot if Amy is out here ripping through Metal Sonics like this? The movie designs are starting to grow on me faster than the game ones can keep up, to be honest. So let me know in the comments where you think the series will go next. I'm thinking this is a setup based on elements from both Sonic CD and Sonic Heroes, and if time travel is blended in somewhere, it leaves room for yet another Hedgehog to enter the mix at some point.